The GPS chirped with artificial cheerfulness. Destination on right. Alex and Emma Rodriguez pulled their rental SUV into a perfectly manicured driveway. Victorian-style house. Pristine white paint. Immaculate flower beds. Everything looked too perfect. Exactly like the photos, Emma whispered. But her fingers clutched the door handle just a little too tightly. Their weekend getaway was supposed to be simple. A break from Chicago's suffocating summer. A chance to reconnect after months of grueling work schedules. Martin Reese greeted them at the door. Mid-50s, salt and pepper hair, pressed khakis. A smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Welcome," he called, stepping aside. "Welcome," he called, stepping aside. "You must be the Rodriguezes." The interior was a museum of meticulous design. Antique furniture arranged with surgical precision. Photographs in identical silver frames. No dust, no personal touches. Just curated perfection. "Make yourselves at home," Martin said, handing them an old-fashioned brass key. "I'll be in my study if you need anything." Something felt off, but exhaustion blunted their instincts. Later that night, Emma scrolled through Airbnb, trying to show Alex the listing they'd booked. Her finger traced the screen. Swiped again. Refreshed. Nothing. The address they'd been given, 1247 Willow Lane, didn't exist on any rental platform. No reviews. No listing. No trace. "Alex," she whispered. "Something's wrong." Martin's study door remained closed. No sound emerged. No light leaked underneath. Just silence. Emma's phone had no signal. The house's landline produced only static when she lifted the receiver. Their cell phones showed no bars, no connection to the outside world. The bedroom felt different after dark. Photographs on the walls seemed to shift when not directly observed. Shadows moved independently of light sources. A grandfather clock in the hallway ticked with unnatural precision, each second exactly the same length. At 2:47 a.m., Emma heard something. Soft, scraping, like someone dragging something heavy across hardwood floors. Methodical, deliberate. Alex remained asleep, unnaturally still. When she touched his shoulder, his skin felt wrong. Too cool, too smooth. The study door opened without a sound. Martin stood in the doorway, no longer wearing khakis, now dressed in what looked like a surgical gown. Latex gloves, a face shield. "You weren't supposed to be awake," he said, not as a threat, more like a mild inconvenience. Behind him, the study revealed something else. Not a typical room, more like a clinical workspace. Stainless steel surfaces, specialized equipment, monitors displaying what looked like medical data. Photographs lined one wall, hundreds of them. Couples, families, individuals, all with red X marks across their images. Emma realized with horrifying clarity that they were not the first. How many? She managed to whisper. Martin tilted his head, considered the question clinically. Statistically, 1 in every 73 bookings produces a viable specimen. The internet makes data collection remarkably efficient. He spoke like a researcher discussing lab rats. The truth emerged in fragments. Martin wasn't just a host. He was a collector, using rental platforms as his hunting ground, selecting targets with mathematical precision. Couples, isolated, unlikely to be immediately missed. The human body is remarkable, Martin continued. Most people never understand how little autonomy they truly possess, how easily controlled. Emma's hand searched for her phone. Nothing. The house itself seemed to be breathing. Walls that felt alive, floors that absorbed sound, a structure designed not just as a dwelling, but as a complex trap. Martin moved closer. No urgency, no aggression, just methodical purpose. "You'll be comfortable," he said. "The procedure is quite routine." Procedure, not murder, not kidnapping. A procedure. Outside, the neighborhood remained perfectly silent. Streetlights casting identical pools of white light. No movement, no sound, just another perfect summer night. In the distance, a car with government plates rolled slowly down the street. Stopped, observed, then continued, leaving no trace. Some systems are larger than individual stories. Some networks operate beyond typical understanding. And some houses are more than just buildings. They are collectors, waiting, processing, continuing. The grandfather clock continued its precise ticking. Each second is exactly the same length, measuring something beyond ordinary time. 12 days later, another couple would book a rental. Another perfect house would welcome them. Another host would smile. The system continues. The listing photos didn't show the stains. That was Mia's first thought as she stepped into the lake house living room, dragging her weekend bag behind her. The stylish angles of the online photos had somehow missed the discoloration on the hardwood near the kitchen threshold. A dark, irregular pattern that reminded her of a Rorschach test. The evening light through floor-to-ceiling windows cast long shadows across the room, making everything look slightly wrong. "I thought check-in was at 4, said Darren, glancing at his watch. "It's almost 6. Cleaning service should have been gone hours ago." The four friends stood awkwardly in the entryway, surrounded by evidence that they weren't alone. An open laptop hummed on the dining table. 2 half-empty wine glasses sat on the coffee table. A smartphone in a bright red case blinked with notifications. "Hello?" called Jason, the de facto leader who'd organized their weekend getaway. His voice echoed through the 3-story lakefront property, bouncing back unanswered from vaulted ceilings and hardwood floors. "Maybe they're out on the dock," suggested Kayla, peering through the wall of windows toward Lake Michigan, where evening fog rolled in like smoke across the water's surface. No one was outside, but someone's expensive camera sat on the railing, lens cap off, memory card light blinking steadily. When Jason tried calling the host, the call went straight to voicemail. The property manager was unavailable until Monday. "We should go," Mia whispered, her journalist's instincts flaring. Something's not right. But darkness had fallen. The nearest town was 30 miles back on winding forest roads, and they'd already paid for the weekend. A non-refundable splurge to celebrate Jason's new job. They probably just stepped out. Darren reasoned, always the pragmatist. "Let's secure our rooms and figure it out in the morning." The upstairs search revealed more unsettling signs. 3 bedrooms contained open suitcases with neatly folded clothes. Toiletries arranged in precise lines on bathroom counters. A wallet containing $340 in cash, and several credit cards sat untouched beside a man's watch. In the master bathroom, the shower curtain hung half open, revealing a ring of rust-colored residue around the drain. "Who leaves without their wallet?" Kayla asked, voice pitched higher than normal. "Or their phone. Maybe they went swimming," Jason suggested, but his usual confidence had evaporated. But swimming didn't explain the table set for dinner. The oven still warmed to the touch. The knife block with one slot conspicuously empty. Mia's fingers traced the edge of a booking confirmation on the counter. "Thomas and Laura Gardner," she read, "plus their friends Michael and Sophie Chen. Checked in 5 days ago." 5 days, Darren repeated, not just overnight. A metallic taste filled Mia's mouth as she noticed a series of scratches on the hardwood floor, trailing from the kitchen toward the basement door, as if something heavy had been dragged. Jason's search of the basement revealed nothing but shadows and cobwebs. No bodies, no blood, just a freezer chest in the corner, padlocked shut. "We're overthinking this," he insisted, but his hands trembled slightly. Maybe there was a medical emergency. They rushed out. "We'll call the property manager first thing tomorrow." Sleep came in fits and starts that night. The lake house creaked and settled around them, each sound amplified in the darkness. Around 2 a.m., Mia woke to a notification ping. The missing guest's phone receiving a text message from someone named Annie. Starting to worry. "Please call when you get this." The morning brought no clarity, only more questions. A search of drawers revealed a rental car agreement in Thomas Gardner's name, A call to the company confirmed the vehicle hadn't been returned. Maybe they're hiking? Darren suggested over coffee. Left their valuables behind for safety, but Mia had discovered something else. A calendar in Laura Gardner's neat handwriting. The group had planned to check out yesterday morning, with a note about their next stop in Grand Rapids. The basement called to Mia like a physical pull. Something about the freezer. The padlock. Jason had dismissed it, but a journalist's curiosity wasn't so easily satisfied. The padlock required bolt cutters they didn't have. But the freezer hummed steadily, frost forming around its sealed edges, while the others debated calling the police. Mia found herself in the master bathroom again, staring at that rust-colored ring. On impulse, she unscrewed the drain cover. The smell hit her immediately. Metallic and organic. The curved pipe below was coated with a dark, tacky substance. Her discovery coincided with Kayla's scream from the kitchen. The knife block wasn't just missing one knife. The block itself had been moved, revealing something carved into the countertop beneath. Don't sleep here. A check of the garage revealed no additional vehicles, but when Jason moved a tarp in the corner, they found 4 suitcases carefully stacked and labeled Gardner and Chen. They packed to leave, Darren whispered, but then that's when Mia noticed the trail of family photos on the mantelpiece. Not photos of the Gardners or Chens, but of other people. Smiling families and couples, all posing in front of this same lake house. Dozens of them spanning what looked like years. The property listing had mentioned the house was new to Airbnb. First season renting, it had claimed. But the date stamps on some photos went back 7 years. Kayla's search of online reviews revealed nothing unusual. Just generic 5-star ratings, with bland comments about great views and perfect getaway. As afternoon approached, strange details multiplied. The basement door, which had been closed all morning, now stood slightly ajar. No one admitted opening it. Darren's laptop connected to the house. Wi-Fi revealed previous searches from the missing guests. How to break a padlock, Lake Michigan drowning statistics. Who owns Airbnb property? Legally responsible Jason. Finally called the police. The nearest station would send someone, but it might be hours. Rural coverage was thin on weekends. While waiting, Mia made her most disturbing discovery. A hidden folder on Thomas Gardner's laptop, containing photos of previous guests, surveillance shots through windows, close-ups of people sleeping, documentation of personal belongings. They weren't victims, she realized aloud. They were collectors. But if the Gardners and Chens were predators, what had happened to them? Who had turned hunters into prey? The answer came from the property manager's website, which Kayla finally managed to access. The company managed 19 properties across 3 states. Each listing featured identical reviews, identical guest books, identical hosts. The company itself was registered to a name they recognized from the mantel photos. A smiling man who'd supposedly stayed here as a guest 3 years ago. Night fell before the police arrived. The power failed precisely at sunset, plunging the lake house into darkness, relieved only by their phone flashlights. That's when they heard it. The sound of a vehicle approaching on the gravel driveway. Headlights swept across the living room windows. Not police cruiser lights. A white van unmarked. The 4 friends huddled in the kitchen, watching as 3 individuals exited the vehicle. They moved with practiced efficiency, retrieving something from the back. A large, heavy duffel bag that took 2 people to carry. Cleaning crew, Jason whispered hopefully. But cleaning crews don't arrive at 9 p.m. They don't carry industrial bolt cutters. They don't wear surgical gloves visible even from a distance. As the newcomers approached the front door, Mia's flashlight beam caught something she'd missed before. A small camera nestled in the porch light fixture, its lens pointed directly at the entryway. The realization crashed over her like ice water. This wasn't just about missing guests or strange circumstances. This was a system. The property listings were bait. The guests were assessed for vulnerability. The belongings were cataloged. The disappearances were planned. And now they had arrived for the next collection. The 4 friends fled through the back door as keys jingled in the front lock. They raced toward the woods beyond the property line, the sound of the lake lapping at the shore masking their escape. From the tree line, they watched as the cleaning crew methodically entered the house. Lights flickered on from room to room. Shadows moved with purpose behind curtains. The police arrived 40 minutes later to find the lake house pristine and empty. No sign of missing guests. No stained floors. No suspicious drain. No laptop. No phones. Just 4 spotless bedrooms, ready for the next booking. The forensic team found nothing unusual except for one detail. Fresh dirt in the garden, where the freezer had been buried after being emptied of its contents. Months later, new listings appeared across 3 states, beautiful properties with perfect reviews and no booking history. Each managed by a company with a new name, but the same business model. And on the mantelpiece of a particular lake house sat a new photo. 4 friends smiling awkwardly on a dock, unaware they were being assessed for more than just their rental payment. The system continues. The collection grows. Only the listings ever change. The rental house crouched on a quiet street in Boise, Idaho, its gray clapboard siding peeling at the edges, porch sagging under a chipped swing. Lena Carter, 27, dropped her bag by the door, the hardwood creaking under her boots. She'd booked it online. Cheap, clean, a week's escape from her barista grind. The host, Victor Reese, 40s, met her with a handshake, lean, balding, eyes like chipped flint behind wire glasses. "No visitors," he'd said, voice clipped, handing her the key. "Keeps things simple." Lena nodded, brushing it off. Her friend Jess was crashing tonight anyway, Victor none the wiser. Inside, the place smelled of pine cleaner, sharp, and stink. Jess, 26, wiry with a laugh that cut glass, slipped in after dark, duffel slung low. They sprawled on the couch, splitting a pizza, the TV flickering static. Cable was spotty. A faint hum drifted up through the floor. Low, steady, like a fridge compressor running overtime. Lena kicked the rug aside. The basement door sat flush, padlocked tight, paint chipped around the edges. Past midnight, Jess stretched, yawning. "Gonna grab a smoke." She stepped onto the porch, the swing groaning as she passed. Lena watched her silhouette through the window, cigarette flaring red, then gone. Minutes ticked by. The porch stayed empty. Lena cracked the door. Jess's lighter sat alone on the steps, still warm. A clatter broke the quiet. Metal scraping metal, faint, from below the house. Her pulse jumped. Victor's truck wasn't in the drive. She texted Jess. No reply. Signal weak. The hum pulsed louder, vibrating the floorboards, a rhythm that gnawed at her nerves. Lena grabbed a butter knife from the kitchen, pathetic but heavy, and tested the basement door. Locked solid. A shadow flicked across the backyard window. Quick, hunched, then vanished into the hedge. The clatter rang again, sharper, closer, like a chain dragging over concrete. Morning light didn't ease the knot in her gut. Jess's duffel slumped by the couch, untouched. Her phone buzzed once. Dead battery. Lena paced, the hum a constant drone now, threading through the walls. She called Victor. Voicemail. His voice crisp. "No visitors, Lena. Rules matter." Her skin prickled. He'd never said that on the phone before. The clatter spiked, sudden loud, then cut off, leaving a silence that pressed against her ears. She rummaged the kitchen, finding a screwdriver under the sink, rusted but sturdy. The basement lock wouldn't budge, but a floorboard by the door creaked loose. She pried it up. Dust swirled, revealing a slit of light below, the hum swelling into a growl. Through the gap, shadows shifted, long, jagged. Over crates stacked high, a muffled thump landed, heavy, like a sack hitting the ground. Lena's breath caught. She wedged the board back, hands trembling. Dusk bled orange across the street. Victor's truck rolled in. Slow, deliberate. Headlights raking the house. He stepped out, toolbox swinging, his glasses catching the porch light's glare. Lena ducked behind the curtains, screwdriver gripped tight. He unlocked the front door, boots thudding, and paused, sniffing the air, head cocked. "Someone here? Head cocked? Someone here," he called, voice flat. A hunter testing the wind. The hum stuttered, off then on, masking her shallow gasps. He crossed to the basement, key jangling, and descended. Door ajar, lights spilling up. Lena crept closer, peering down. Stairs dropped into a concrete pit. Crates piled along walls. A tarp sagging in the corner. Victor knelt, tugging the tarp aside. Duct tape gleamed, rolls of it, next to a coil of rope stained dark. The thump came again. Soft, alive, from a crate. Lena's knees buckled. Jess's laugh flashed in her mind, silenced now. Victor's head snapped up, eyes locking hers through the gap. "You broke the rule," he hissed, voice cold as steel, rising fast. Lena bolted, slamming the door, shoving a chair under the knob. The hum roared, wild, mechanical, as he pounded the wood, splintering it. She grabbed Jess's duffel, sprinting out the back, the thump echoing, desperate, fading. As Victor's boots hit the stairs, she flagged a cop on the highway, panting, spilling it all. Jess, the basement, Victor's glare. They raided the house at dawn. Crates held 3 others, bound, gagged, shipped out through a trafficking ring. Victor ran solo. Jess was gone. Sold, they guessed. No trace but her lighter. Victor vanished. Truck ditched 10 miles out. A ghost in the wind. Lena crashed in a motel, eyes hollow, replaying that thump. Weeks later, a new rental ad popped up. Same house, same photos, no visitors in bold. She called a number. Victor's voice answered, crisp. Booked yet? Then cut off. Last night, her motel door creaked, unlocked itself, and a roll of duct tape sat on the sill, fresh, waiting. He wasn't hiding. He was hunting her next. Jackson Hart arrived at the Airbnb on Cedar Lane late in the evening. The listing described it as a charming cottage, but under the pale glow of street lamps, it looked worn and weary. The porch steps creaked beneath his weight as wind rattled through bare branches above, whispering secrets into the dark. Inside, the house seemed clean but oddly sterile, its furniture arranged precisely, as if placed by someone who had never actually lived there. As Jackson dropped his bags in the hallway, his gaze was drawn upward, just above the bedroom door, barely visible. A small wooden trapdoor hid in shadows. He felt a sudden chill slide down his spine. He pushed away the feeling, exhaustion overriding unease. Lighter, while lying awake in bed, staring at unfamiliar ceiling cracks, Jackson listened to the rhythmic creak of wood. His mind drifted until a new sound jolted him awake. Soft, careful footsteps padding across the attic floor. He bolted upright, ears straining. The house settled into silence once more. Heart racing, Jackson convinced himself it was just old wood settling. But sleep did not come easy again. Morning sunlight eased his fears, revealing cheerful blue walls, freshly scrubbed floors. Still, curiosity gnawed at him about the attic. He grabbed a chair and balanced on tiptoes, fingertips grazing the edge of the trapdoor. Dust fell like whispers as it creaked open, revealing darkness. He retrieved his phone, shining its flashlight upward. His stomach turned. A thin mattress, yellowed and stained, occupied a cramped space littered with dusty shoes arranged in neat rows. Beside them lay stacks of faded Polaroids. Jackson hesitated, breath shallow, before climbing fully into the attic. Kneeling beside the photos, he felt dread coil tightly around him. Each image was a sleeping figure, some twisted in sheets, others sprawled vulnerably, men and women unaware they were being watched. His pulse quickened, then his heart stopped. Near the top, he recognized himself, peacefully asleep, time-stamped just hours before. Jackson scrambled down from the attic, slamming the trapdoor shut. He paced, eyes darting, paranoia clawing his throat. Someone had been here last night, watching, waiting, photographing. But how? He dialed the host number, pacing anxiously. A friendly automated voice responded. Disconnected. No other contact provided. Feeling trapped, Jackson searched reviews, desperate for clues. Oddly, each guest praised their stay. None mentioned anything unusual. Darkness fell again, wrapping the house in shadows. He tried watching television, but every creak, every subtle sound dragged his eyes upward. Hours ticked by painfully slow. Suddenly, heavy footsteps echoed directly above him. Jackson froze, chest tightening. Someone was up there. He listened intently as the attic creaked beneath purposeful strides. Then silence. Minutes passed like eternity. Jackson gathered courage, slowly approached the attic door. He held his breath, listened. A faint, dragging sound echoed through the ceiling. Scrape, drag, scrape, drag. Heart hammering, he stepped back, then froze again. The trapdoor was slightly ajar. Jackson's breath came quick, ragged. He felt eyes upon him, unseen but close, oppressive. Frantically, he grabbed his keys, rushing toward the door. Knob refused to turn, locked from the outside. "No," he whispered, panic swelling. They hinned him. The attic door creaked loudly, swinging open inch by inch. Jackson turned, paralyzed, unable to breathe. A shadowy figure descended, slow and methodical. Shallow breaths rattled in the darkness, labored and rasping. "You shouldn't have looked," the figure whispered. The voice sounded soft, almost polite, yet unmistakably sinister. Jackson stumbled backward, words frozen in his throat. The man stepped closer into the dim glow. A face thin, worn, familiar from photos left upstairs. This man had been watching him, observing, waiting patiently above. "Who are you?" Jackson forced out. "Just a fellow guest. I've always enjoyed meeting new people," the man said softly, eyes glinting strangely. "You've seen my work. Beautiful, isn't it?" Jackson backed into a corner, trapped. The man approached slowly, calmly. His breathing steady yet shallow. He reached into his pocket, pulling out an old Polaroid camera, its lens glinting ominously. "One last picture," he said gently, almost sympathetically. "For my collection?" "No," Jackson gasped, feeling tears of desperation sting his eyes. Bright flesh. Jackson stumbled blindly forward, shoving past the figure, knocking the camera to the floor. It shattered loudly. The man shrieked, rage contorting his calm facade. "You ruined it," he howled, lunging forward with frightening speed. Jackson fled toward the kitchen, feet sliding on slick linoleum. The man's footsteps thundered behind, his ragged breaths louder, frantic. Jackson grabbed a knife from the block, gripping it with trembling hands. The man burst into the kitchen, eyes wild. "You destroyed my art." "It's over," Jackson shouted, brandishing the knife defensively. The man halted abruptly, eyes narrowing, breathing unsteady. He turned and bolted toward the attic. Jackson rushed to the front door, tugging violently at the locked handle, desperation mounting. A sickening crash echoed above. Jackson spun around as dust and insulation cascaded from the ceiling, chunks of plaster hitting the floor. The man fell from the attic hatch, landing heavily, unmoving. Above, police flashlights pierced the attic darkness, voices shouting commands. Jackson slid to the floor, gasping for air as officers broke down the front door. His body shook uncontrollably, relief mixed with terror. MTs checked him over, reassuring words barely reaching his numb ears. Days later, the investigation unveiled the horrifying truth. The intruder was Charles Brenner, A man once reported missing from this very Airbnb. He had lived hidden in the attic for months, secretly documenting unsuspecting guests. Charles's unstable obsession had spiraled violently when discovered. The rental listing disappeared, the house condemned, forgotten by time. Yet Jackson would forever carry its hidden horror. Nights became torture, sleep elusive, every creak now menacing, every shadow suspect. Months passed before Jackson noticed the first photograph arrive at his doorstep. Addressed to him, anonymous, a Polaroid of him sleeping in his own bed, time-stamped just days before. On its back, a single chilling phrase scrawled in shaky hand. "See you again soon." The old Victorian guest house loomed against the bruised twilight sky, its silhouette jagged and foreboding. Rustic tranquility, the online ad had promised, but as Sarah stepped across the threshold, a sharp, almost medicinal scent, like strong disinfectant, mingled with the cloying sweetness of the tea Arthur offered. A discordant note in the welcoming gesture, a faint rhythmic drip, its source hidden somewhere within the aged walls, echoed in the otherwise still foyer, an unsettling metronome counting down unseen moments. Arthur, his smile a touch too wide, his eyes holding a fleeting, unreadable glint, ushered her in. The house, filled with heavy, dark furniture draped in lace, felt less like a haven and more like a museum holding its breath. In the dimly lit living room, Sarah's gaze snagged on a framed photograph on the mantelpiece. A family portrait, but the faces had been meticulously scratched out, leaving only ghostly white voids. Her room, smelling faintly of mildew and old paper, offered a view of the churning ocean. At the foot of the bed, the antique chest beckoned. Inside, the burgundy velvet album lay waiting. Guests 2015, 2023. As Sarah opened it, a faint, almost imperceptible whisper seemed to rustle from the pages, like dry leaves skittering across pavement. A fleeting sound that made the hairs on her arms stand on end. The smiling faces stared back. Beneath each, the dates. Arrival and departure for some. A single stark date for others. 1. A woman by the porch swing. Read October 12, 2018. Later, the news headline on her phone screamed, "Unsolved murder. Victim found October 12, 2018. The chill wasn't just the sea breeze. Another photo, a man in the garden, June 3rd, 2021. The headline, local hiker vanishes. The pattern, a terrifying mosaic of lost lives. Her own photo, Arthur's cheerful snap upon arrival, lay on the last page below it. Today's date. The whisper from the album echoed in her mind. Footsteps outside. Slow, heavy. Arthur's humming. A jaunty tune now laced with menace grew louder. He knocked. "Sarah, everything to your liking. You remind me of someone special who stayed here. I always keep my special guests. Forever." His voice a silken threat. "Just resting," Sarah mumbled, her fingers flying across her phone, dialing 911. "And wait, 911. Host. Photo album. Dates." Her whispered words tumbled out, a desperate plea. The door rattled. "Sarah, dear, you haven't finished your portrait for the collection." His voice, tight with forced joviality, cracked. The doorknob twisted, panic flared. The window. The drop felt like forever, the rocks below unforgiving. The door splintered. "Sarah, you can't leave before the picture is complete." She scrambled onto the sill, the wind tearing at her clothes. Below, in the garden, bathed in the eerie moonlight, a figure stood motionless, a dark silhouette holding a camera, its lens pointed directly at her. Arthur. She jumped. The impact sent a jolt of pain through her body, but she scrambled, adrenaline her only fuel. As she fled through the overgrown bushes, a photo, dislodged from the album, fluttered to her feet, her own smiling face. Sirens wailed. She reached the road, a passing car screeching to a halt. Her story, a torrent of terror. Police found the album, confirmed the grim tally. Arthur was gone. The guest house, silent. Sarah never slept soundly again. Every creak of the floorboards, every shadow, held the echo of a cheerful hum and the glint of a lens. She'd escaped the host's collection, but the fear, that stayed forever. The farmhouse Airbnb boasted rustic charm and 5-star reviews, but the listing photos cropped out the cracked porch steps, the cornfields whispering too close, and the faint chemical tang clinging to the linen closet. The previous guest's 5-star review, posted an hour before their car was found abandoned, doors wide open. Rachel's grip tightened on her keys. The suitcases sat too neatly by the stairs, leather cracked like aged skin. Red heels pointed toward the kitchen, soles crusted with something dark. Vintage decor, Mark joked, but his laugh died as their dog, Baxter, growled at the basement door. The host's reply buzzed, "Only guests this week." Baxter's whine sharpened to a snarl. 3:03 a.m. Rachel counted footsteps. 8 paces across the ceiling. Then, silence. Raccoons, Mark mumbled into his pillow. She followed Baxter's stare to the attic hatch. No ladder. No access. The dog's hackles rose as something giggled upstairs. Mr. Voss arrived at dawn smelling of bleach and cedar. "You'll find everything." Mark lingered near the basement door. "What's down there?" "Furnace." Voss's smile stretched thin. "Don't wanna lose a deposit poking around, eh?" While he fixed the sink, Rachel found Polaroids under the sofa. A 1992 couple mid-laugh, forks hovering over a charred steak. The man's watch matched the suitcase monogram. Baxter pawed at the basement door. The knob turned on its own. The basement reeked of formaldehyde. Extension cords snaked to cameras hidden in faux smoke detectors. Mark froze before a corkboard. "That's the couple from the news. Missing since..." Polaroids charted decades of guests. All smiling. All wearing clothes from the suitcases. Baxter whined at a freezer humming in the corner. Voss's syringe glinted. "You'll love the 2024 exhibit." Mark slammed a shovel into his ribs. "Run!" They stumbled through cornstalks, Voss's tractor roaring behind them. Rachel's phone died as headlights bore down. The farmhouse new listing advertises fresh renovations. Fresh renovations. Last month's guests left a review. So authentic. Felt like stepping into history. Rachel checks their profile daily. No new posts. Mark keeps the lights on all night. He won't say why he bought a guard dog at 3 a.m. When wind rattles the windows, they both count footsteps. 8 paces. Always 8. The first drop of water fell at exactly 3:17 a.m. Lily Martinez sat bolt upright in the unfamiliar bed. Her sleep-fogged brain tried to place the sound. Plink. Another drop hit the hardwood floor, a few feet from where she'd laid out tomorrow's clothes. In the moonlight streaming through the curtainless windows, she could make out a dark stain forming on the ceiling. A perfect circle expanding outward, like a blooming flower. Plink, plink. This wasn't mentioned in the listing. The quaint Victorian in Chester, Pennsylvania had promised rustic charm and period details, not water damage from what must be an upstairs room. Except, according to Jeremy, the host who'd greeted her with freshly baked cookies and a too-wide smile. There was no upstairs room. Just the main floor and basement, he'd explained, handing her the keys. Previous owner sealed off the attic years ago. Not up to code, you understand. Lily grabbed her phone and opened the messages from her editor. Need that true crime piece by Friday. Something fresh, something that'll make readers sleep with the lights on. As a journalist specializing in unsolved cases, Lily had come to Chester investigating the disappearances. 3 women in their 20s who'd vanished over the past 18 months. The police had found nothing, but Lily had a knack for connecting dots others missed. The water drops increased in frequency, drumming an irregular rhythm that made sleep impossible. With a frustrated sigh, she switched on the lamp and examined the ceiling more carefully. The stain wasn't water. Water wasn't that thick, that viscous, that red. Morning brought sunshine and silence. The stain had disappeared completely. No trace remained on either ceiling or floor. Lily ran her fingers over the spot where she'd watched droplets fall hours earlier. Bone dry. Sleep well? Jeremy appeared in the doorway, making her jump. He wore faded jeans and a Chester local theater t-shirt, a hammer hanging from his belt loop. I was just fixing the porch railing. Coffee's in the kitchen. Actually, I had a question about the attic, Lily said, watching his face carefully. I heard some strange noises last night. His smile flickered, just briefly, before returning with renewed brilliance. Probably raccoons. They get in sometimes. Nothing to worry about. Raccoons that leak red liquid through the ceiling? Jeremy's laugh sounded rehearsed. The roof had a small leak last month. Might be residual rust from the old pipes. I'll check it out. He didn't check it out. Instead, he left quickly, mentioning errands that would keep him away until evening. Perfect. The house creaked around Lily as she methodically searched for access to the sealed attic. No obvious doors presented themselves in the upstairs hallway. The house was a puzzle box of odd angles and strangely placed walls. She found it while examining the hallway closet, a seam in the ceiling, nearly invisible, with the faint outline of a trapdoor. No handle, no obvious way to open it. But the dimensions matched the water stain in her bedroom perfectly. The maintenance ladder from the garage reached just high enough. Using a screwdriver, Lily pried at the edges of the trapdoor until something gave way with a reluctant groan. A folding staircase descended, releasing a cloud of dust and the distinct smell of copper and chemicals, like a hospital room mixed with a mechanic's garage. The attic was not what she expected. Instead of cobwebs and forgotten furniture, she found a meticulously organized space. One half contained a desk with a large corkboard covered in maps, newspaper clippings, and photographs connected by colored string. The other half held what could only be described as a workshop, with tools arranged by size, plastic sheeting on the floor, and a drain in the center. But it was the wall of photographs that stopped her breath. Some smiling in what looked like candid shots taken without their knowledge, some clearly unconscious. Some, Lily looked away quickly, her stomach lurching. 3 faces were circled in red. 3 faces she recognized from her research files. The missing women of Chester. A ledger on the desk contained dates, names, and notes in precise handwriting. The last entry was dated 3 days ago. LM arrives 4 p.m. Room 2, solo traveler. No local connections. Estimated duration, 4-6 days. LM Lily Martinez. Her name was followed by personal details she'd never shared publicly. Her medication allergies, blood type, weight. A creak from the stairs below snapped her focus. Jeremy wasn't supposed to be back until evening. Finding everything you need up there? His voice had changed. No more forced cheerfulness. Just flat, professional curiosity. Lily grabbed the ledger and her phone, backing away from the trapdoor. No windows in the attic. No other exits. Just looking for the source of that leak. She called down, trying to keep her voice steady while quickly photographing the wall of evidence. Interesting hobby you have up here. Not a hobby. Not a hobby. Jeremy's head appeared in the opening. His smile now something altogether different. More of a calling. You should understand. You collect stories. I collect experiences. The police will be interested in your collection. Lily held up her phone. I've already sent these photos to my editor. No, you haven't. He climbed fully into the attic now, blocking the only exit. No signal up here. I made sure of that. Faraday cage principles. Simple enough to implement during renovation. He was right. The sending icon on her message was stuck in an endless loop. The others were just practice, Jeremy said, moving toward his workbench. Mistakes were made. Mistakes were made. Lessons learned. But you, with your investigative skills, you'll help me perfect the process. Your article deadline's Friday, right? We have plenty of time. Lily backed toward the far end of the attic, calculating odds, searching for weapons. Searching for weapons. People know where I am, do they? His smile widened as he retrieved something from a drawer. Your editor thinks you're in Philadelphia. Your emergency contact information lists your sister in Seattle. Your rental car is currently parked at the train station, where I moved it this morning. And this house isn't even a registered Airbnb property. What? The listing you found was, let's call it specialized. It appears only to certain search parameters. Only to certain people. With horror, Lily remembered the oddly specific filter she'd used while booking. Solo traveler, remote work friendly, extended stay available, no security cameras. She had selected herself. You've been doing this for years, she realized, glancing at the wall of faces. The missing women were just recent local examples. Very good. Jeremy nodded approvingly. See? This is why you're perfect. You make connections. Now, we have two options. The messy way. He held up what she now recognized as a syringe. Or we can talk about a collaboration. Your investigative skills. My expertise. The house below them suddenly erupted with the sound of splintering wood. Voices shouted commands. Heavy footsteps thundered across the floor beneath them. Jeremy's face twisted in confusion. That's not possible. No one knows. Except my editor does know, Lily interrupted, relief flooding her veins. And those photos I couldn't send? They uploaded automatically through my backup app the moment I took them. The GPS tracker in my watch has been active since I arrived. And those 3 missing women? One was my college roommate. The trapdoor burst open as tactical officers swarmed the attic. Jeremy lunged toward Lily, but too late. Later, as paramedics checked her vitals, Detective Wilson explained what they found in the basement. 6 more, preserved, categorized, going back 12 years. He called them his collection, Lily said, her journalist's mind already framing the story. But collections are meant to be seen. He wanted an audience. Looks like he found one, Wilson replied grimly. 6 months later, Lily's book, The Upper Room, Inside a Predator's Mind, became a bestseller. The case closed 17 disappearances across 9 states. But what haunts Lily isn't Jeremy or his attic. It's a comment section on the listing she'd found. Dozens of reviews from guests who'd stayed there and left alive, completely unaware of what existed above their heads as they slept. And the one review that simply read, Jeremy's not the only host. We are everywhere. Some of us are just better at cleaning up.